End of the MCU? Marvel cleans house? Kathleen Kennedy wants out. Is our long national nightmare truly over? PMS syndrome. Pale and male is stale. Chris Gore at Film Threat reports,
"What I said was she is ready to leave. She just wants a win to go out on."
While Marvel reportedly fires producers for a back-to-basics reboot. Has Pale and Male is Stale finally broken?
Curse is broken. Curse is broken, people!
Wow, maybe the free market will liberate us after all. People voted with their dollars and...
The truth shall set you free!
And maybe we can get back to the goal of making good movies and television.
Fucking A.
Please indulge me for a brief moment while I set this up. I first saw Star Wars as a kid in the theater, and like most young buckaroos of the period, it blew me away. My life was Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars after that. All I wanted was Star Wars action figures. My dream of having a battalion of stormtroopers.
An entire legion of my best troops.
Never fully materialized. I think I had 4, and one of them I found in the street, chewed by a doggy. The next closest thing to that cinematic experience for me was Aliens. Me and my 2 cousins, as teenagers, not the most enlightened of species, teenage boys, walked out of that theater on a rainy July weekend babbling,
Game over, man. It's game over.
Or,
Medical! Get to medical!
Or,
It's reading right, man. Look. Well, you're not reading it right.
or the beloved chestnut,
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Fucking A.
It wasn't until 10 years later, while talking to a friend of mine who was also obsessed over aliens, who pointed out how many female characters were in the film. I mean, of course there was Ripley, and the little girl Newt, sole survivor of the colony. And who could forget Vasquez? There also was a female medic and female pilot. And the biggest, baddest mother of all alien xenomorphs was, well, their mother, the Queen. Looking back, I thought, oh yeah, duh. But it never occurred to me or my 2 male cousins that that was the case, at a time in the male life cycle when you're most suspect of the fairer sex. And this was back in the 1980s when there was arguably much more quantifiable sexism. Yet, we didn't care. Didn't matter to us it was all dames. Us knuckleheads didn't even notice it. It underscores the fact that good storytelling transcends all. Now, Hollywood has never been exempt from making bad movies. In my opinion, most movies are not that good, and I feel like I'm being charitable. Anyone who's worked in the industry knows that making movies is hard work. Even if you're below the line, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. For 12, maybe 16, maybe 20-hour days. It takes a ton of work to make a film. Even more work to make one that's just decent. Never mind the Herculean effort to make a good movie. I mean, how many Blade Runners are there? How many Fight Clubs? How many Good, the Bad, and the Uglies? How many truly great movies will you get in a 10-year period? My point is, even when the goal was solely to make a great movie, the results were hit and miss, and way more misses than hits. When the goal then becomes virtue signaling, posturing, high-level execs working through their rich guilt by adopting the language of activism to market their garbage, quote-unquote, content, at that point you've lost the plot and won't make anything good. Now, a lot of people do this, but I'm not going to dignify them by calling them activists. That's what they want you to call them. It's how they want to see themselves. Now, there are real activists, people working with the homeless, working in food pantries, volunteering in healthcare clinics, people doing the real work, people getting their hands dirty, people whose names you'll never know. And these are people who don't care about pronouns, or diversifying Marvel or Star Wars. These are real activists. Studio executives are not activists. As Maverick writer-director John Milius, famous for Red Dawn, Conan the Barbarian, and Apocalypse Now, said in the Apocalypse Now documentary Hearts of Darkness, studio executives aren't known for their social courage.
You know, studio executives are not getting, they're the last people who are going to get in the middle of that thing, you know. I mean, studio executives, you know, are not noted for their social courage.
Let that one sink in. What these studio execs are doing is upper-class virtue signaling. Nothing more, nothing less. Unfortunately for us, they're using our beloved franchises to do it. But they'll soon get tired and move on, especially as the winds of fashion pick up. And yikes, seems like they're really starting to blow. Because basically the people who run the industry are business executives. They don't have experience or expertise in storytelling. They toil in a risk-averse world. When they took over the film industry, they did not like that it was the highest risk-to-reward industry there is. They like making Coke, Coca-Cola. They know what it costs. They know what the market is, how many people buy it, drink it. There are boosts in the summer and lulls in the winter, but by and large it is a standard, predictable product with not a lot of risk. And we know how to make it. Carbonated sugar water, done and dusted. Movies? Who knows where the story's gonna go, how well it was written, acted, directed, etc. You can have a really good movie like Big Trouble in Little China, but without proper marketing, it bombs. That one had to find a life of its own in home video. As for Kathleen Kennedy, who wants to go out with a win, great. We all want one. Let's get to it. I mean, you're in your 70s, Kathleen. You don't want to drag this out. So let's get right to it. Forget the Force is female nonsense. Get back to the Force is non-denominational and give the people what they want. No, not that. A good story. The audience is fickle, but they're forgiving, up to a point. But you make a rousing crowd pleaser and they'll shell out the dough. And you'll get your win. It's not rocket science. It's not social science. It's proper storytelling. So,
now what's it gonna be, Mr. Pink?
This was natural. But with every passing fad, every bout of social conformity, there comes an end. There comes a point at the end of the movie when comprehension breaks on the antagonist.
I'm the bad guy?
Afraid so, KK. Now take your severance package and go. Thanks for clicking in.
Subscribe. Hit that button and subscribe.